Commander Thelrix stood at the front of the massive briefing hall, his 6 eyes scanning the rows of cadets before him. The holographic display behind him showed a planet wrapped in dark storm clouds, spinning slowly in the air. 247 cadets sat in complete silence, watching. "The Gauntlet of Kesvar," Thelrix said, his voice echoing through the hall. "Your final examination begins in 3 days." Riley Chin sat near the back, scribbling notes in her datapad. She looked calm, almost bored. Around her, the other cadets had gone completely still. The Valkyrie cadet sitting next to her had turned pale blue, which Riley had learned meant fear. The Ordhani cadets a few rows ahead were making soft whistling sounds that sounded like crying. "The historical survival rate," Thelrix continued, "is 2%. In 300 years, only 1,700 cadets have passed this test out of 94,000 who attempted it." Riley stopped writing. She looked up at the numbers on the display and did the math in her head. Then she raised her hand. Thelrix's 6 eyes all turned to look at her. "Yes, Cadet Chin?" "Sir, just to make sure I understand. 2% survive." "That is correct." Riley leaned back in her chair. A small smile appeared on her face. "So what am I supposed to do with the other 98%? The hall exploded with noise. Cadets gasped. Some made shocked sounds in their own languages. A Dravish cadet in the 3rd row actually fell out of his seat and hit the floor with a loud crash. Other cadets turned around to stare at Riley like she had just said something crazy. Commander Thelrix's translator device seemed to pause, like it was not sure it had heard her correctly. "Cadet Chin, perhaps you do not understand how serious this is." "No, sir, I understand perfectly." Riley stood up. Her voice was calm and clear. 2% survive. That's 1 out of every 50 cadets. I plan to be that one. "The foolishness of youth," said Instructor Vixen from where the teachers sat. Her scales turned dark with disapproval. "The human does not understand what she will face." "With respect, Instructor," Riley said, turning to face the older warrior, "I understand exactly what I'm facing. It's a test. A very difficult test. But it's still just a test." Thelrix made a clicking sound with his mandibles. "Cadet Chin, this is not like the test you took on Earth. The gauntlet uses full simulation technology that connects directly to your brain. The pain you feel is real. The injuries are real. Death is not permanent, but it is painful enough that most species need months of therapy afterward." "Most species," Riley repeated. "Not all species?" "Humans have proven resistant to the psychological damage," Thelrix admitted. "That is why you are allowed to attempt the gauntlet. However, being resistant does not mean you will succeed. In the past 40 years, 23 humans have tried. All 23 have failed." Riley pulled up information on her datapad and scrolled through the records. "But humans have passed before, right? I see 4 successes in the last 100 years." 4 out of 97 attempts, Instructor Vixen said coldly. "A 4% survival rate for humans. Yes, that is twice as good as the average. But it is still not good odds." 4%. Riley's smile grew wider. "That's even better than I thought." The Valkyrie cadet next to her made a choking sound. "How can you smile? We are all going to die." "Maybe you are," Riley said, but her voice was not mean. "But I'm going to pass." "Impossible," hissed a Sarthian cadet from across the aisle. His forked tongue flicked out nervously. "The gauntlet learns. It adapts. It changes to stop every plan, every strategy. Surviving is just luck." "Then I'll make my own luck," Riley said simply. Commander Thelrix raised one of his arms for silence. "Whatever Cadet Chin believes, you must all prepare yourselves. The gauntlet simulates a death world with many dangerous creatures, terrible weather, and very few resources. You will start alone at random locations. There are no teams. No help. No rescue." "How long does it last?" asked a Krillian cadet, her voice shaking. "Until you complete the mission, run out of time, or die," Thelrix said. "Most cadets who die last an average of 14 minutes. The record for completing the gauntlet is 9 hours. That record belongs to war leader Kesvar, the warrior this test is named after." "What's the mission?" Riley asked. "You will find out when the simulation starts. The gauntlet gives you almost no information on purpose. You must adapt and survive using only your training." The briefing continued for another hour. Thelrix explained the technical details and the legal documents they all had to sign. Around Riley, the other cadets began their preparations for what they thought would be their deaths. The Valkyrie entered deep meditation. The Ordhani wrote songs about their lives. The Dravish chose who would inherit their belongings. Riley Chin opened her tactical training manual and kept taking notes. That evening, her roommate Kira found her in their quarters. Riley was surrounded by data pads, each one showing different survival scenarios and statistics from previous gauntlet attempts. "You should be praying," Kira said quietly. Her skin, which usually glowed soft blue, was pulsing with worried purple colors. "Don't believe in gods," Riley said without looking up from her research. "Just believe in myself and what I can learn in 3 days." "Riley, please." Kira's voice broke. "I have been your friend for 3 years. I know humans can be reckless. But this is not bravery. This is denial. The gauntlet kills everyone. The 2% number is just so they do not have to call it certain death." Riley finally looked up. Her face was serious now. "Kira, on Earth we have a saying. Never tell me the odds. Do you know why we say that? Because humans are irrational? Because odds are just numbers and numbers can change. That 2% exists because someone beat the system. Which means the system can be beaten." Riley's expression softened. "You're thinking about this wrong." "What do you mean?" "You look at 2% and think 98% die. I look at 2% and think someone has to be in that lucky group. Why not me?" Kira's skin flickered through confused colors. "That is the same thing." "No," Riley said gently. "It's really not. How you think about something matters. If you go into that simulation thinking you're already dead, you'll make choices like a dead person. If you go in thinking you're part of the 2%, you'll make survivor choices. What if you are wrong?" Riley shrugged. "Then I wake up with a bad headache and try again next year. But I'm not going to be wrong." The next 3 days were strange at the academy. Cadets said goodbye to their families. Many species performed death rituals. The training grounds, usually full of competitive exercises, became quiet places where cadets sat alone with their thoughts. Riley Chin spent 72 hours straight in the academy archives. She watched every recorded second of previous gauntlet attempts she could access. She saw cadets make the same mistakes over and over. They followed standard survival training. They tried to save their resources. They hid from threats instead of facing them. She watched them all die. On the morning of the test, Riley walked to the insertion chamber with steady steps. Other cadets shuffled forward like they were walking to their executions. Some were crying. Others had gone completely silent. Riley was humming a song from Earth under her breath. The world materialized around Riley in an instant. One moment she was lying in the insertion pod, the next she was standing on cracked red earth under a sky the color of bruised flesh. The air tasted like metal and smoke. Her uniform's heads-up display flickered to life. Mission objective appeared in glowing text. Reach the extraction point 15 kilometers north. Time limit, 12 hours. Riley checked her gear quickly. Standard survival pack, emergency beacon, basic medical supplies, 3 days of rations and a pulse rifle with 2 charge packs. The ground beneath her feet was hot enough that she could feel it through her boots. Then the screaming started. It came from somewhere to her east, cut off abruptly after 5 seconds. Riley's display showed a cadet marker winking out of existence. Dead already. The sky opened up. Rain fell in thick drops that hissed when they hit the ground. Riley looked up and immediately regretted it. A single drop hit her cheek and burned like fire. She wiped it away quickly and pulled up her hood. The fabric was treated to resist acids, but she could already see small holes forming where the rain hit hardest. Another scream, closer this time. Riley pulled up her tactical map. 3 cadet markers were within 2 kilometers of her position. As she watched, one of them stopped moving. Then it disappeared. 2 left nearby. Riley started moving north, keeping to a steady jog. The rain was getting heavier. She could see other cadets on her display, most of them stationary. They were finding shelter, following standard survival protocol. Wait out the dangerous weather, conserve energy, assess the situation. A Valkyrie cadet marker was only 400 meters away, hiding in what looked like a cave formation. Riley watched his signal for 30 seconds. He was not moving at all. Then something else moved on her display. Multiple signals, not cadets. They were circling the cave entrance. Riley switched her communication to open broadcast. "Cadet in the western caves, you have hostiles surrounding your position. Get out now." No response. Maybe his communication was damaged. Maybe he was too scared to move. The cadet marker disappeared. Riley kept running. The acid rain was eating through her hood now. She could feel droplets getting through, burning small spots on her shoulders and back. Her uniform would not last another 20 minutes in this. She pulled out an emergency flare from her pack, the kind designed to signal for rescue. Instead of firing it into the sky, she threw it ahead of her on the ground. The bright magnesium fire exploded in white-hot light, and the rain evaporated before it could reach the flames. Riley ran through the steam, using the flare's heat to shield herself. It would only last 90 seconds, but that was 90 seconds her gear was not dissolving. Wasteful according to standard doctrine. She only had 3 flares. She used the second one 60 meters later. Movement to her left. Riley dropped and rolled as something massive lunged through the space where her head had been. She came up with her pulse rifle aimed and got her first look at what was hunting them. It was 4-legged, covered in segmented plates that overlapped like armor. 6 eyes on a head that was mostly mouth. The creature was the size of a small vehicle, and it was not alone. 3 more emerged from behind rock formations, spreading out to surround her. Pack hunters. They coordinated like wolves. Riley's display showed another cadet marker 500 meters north. It was not moving. She could see the vital signs were still active but dropping fast. Someone was wounded and hiding. The creatures moved closer, their movements synchronized. One would feint left while another tested right. They were learning her reaction patterns. Standard doctrine. Avoid engagement, retreat to defendable position, wait for them to lose interest. Riley fired her last flare directly at the nearest creature's eyes. The beast shrieked and thrashed backward, crashing into one of its pack mates. Riley did not wait. She sprinted forward, vaulting over a low rock and firing her pulse rifle at the ground behind her. The shots did not hit the creatures, but they kicked up debris and dust that confused their charge. She ran toward the wounded cadet marker. Behind her, the creatures recovered and gave chase. She could hear their claws scraping on stone, getting closer. Her display showed their speed. They were faster than her. They would catch her in less than a minute. Riley unclipped her damaged gear pack and threw it backward without breaking stride. The creatures pounced on it, ripping it apart in seconds while she gained distance. More wasteful behavior. That pack had emergency supplies. She found the wounded cadet in a shallow depression between 2 boulders. It was a Sarthian, his scaled body torn open along one side. His eyes were glazed with pain. "Can you walk?" Riley asked. "Leave me," he hissed. "Save yourself." "Not an option. Can you walk or not?" "My legs work, but I am bleeding. I will slow you down." Riley pulled out her medical kit and sprayed synthetic skin over his wounds. It would not heal him, but it would stop the bleeding and numb the pain. "You're going to run. I'm going to cover you. Head north. Do not stop. This is madness. Standard protocol says." "Standard protocol has gotten 98% of cadets killed," Riley said. "Get up. Now." The Sarthian staggered to his feet. Riley pushed him forward and turned to face the creatures that were closing in. 4 of them, moving in perfect formation. She aimed at the ground in front of them and fired a sustained burst. The pulse rifle's energy carved a trench in the stone, superheating it until it glowed orange. The creatures skidded to a halt, confused by the sudden heat barrier. Riley ran. The Sarthian was ahead of her, moving slower than she would like but moving. Behind them, the creatures found a way around the heated stone and resumed their pursuit. The acid rain was letting up slightly, but Riley's uniform was in tatters. Her shoulders were covered in small burns. Her hood was completely gone. Every drop that hit exposed skin felt like a bee sting. She checked her map. The high ground was 2 kilometers ahead, a ridge that rose above the rain clouds. If they could reach it, they would be out of this death trap. More cadet markers were disappearing from her display. 15 cadets had started near her. Now only 4 remained, including her and the Sarthian. A Pelvarian marker was moving erratically, running in circles. Riley watched as hostile signals converged on the position. She opened her communication again. "Pelvarian cadet, stop running in panic. Pick a direction and commit. The predators are following your scent." The marker stopped for a moment, then started moving in a straight line toward the ridge. Good. They were learning. The creatures behind Riley were gaining again. She could hear their breathing, a wet rasping sound. The Sarthian was slowing down, his injured body giving out. "Keep going," Riley shouted. "Do not stop." She turned and fired at the lead creature, aiming for its eyes. The shot connected and the beast stumbled, but the others kept coming. Riley's rifle display showed 10% charge remaining. Maybe 30 more shots. The ridge was 1 kilometer away. Riley made a decision. She stopped running and planted her feet. The Sarthian looked back in horror. "Go," she screamed at him. "I will catch up." The creatures saw her stop and interpreted it as surrender. They charged as a group, expecting easy prey. Riley waited until they were 20 meters away, then fired at the ground directly in front of them. The pulse rifle's energy cracked the stone, and she kept firing, kept pouring energy into the same spot. The rock split and shattered, and suddenly the ground collapsed into a sinkhole that the creatures could not stop their momentum. 3 of them fell into the hole. The 4th leaped over it, coming straight at Riley. She dove to the side, rolling across the burning ground. The creature's claws missed her by centimeters. She came up and fired her rifle point blank into its exposed underbelly. The creature screamed and thrashed, and Riley ran. Her rifle showed 2% charge. Effectively empty. The Sarthian had reached the base of the ridge. Riley caught up to him and together they climbed. The rock was steep and slippery from the rain, but anything was better than the killing ground below. They reached the top just as Riley's uniform finally gave up. The acid had eaten through to her undershirt. Her arms were covered in small chemical burns. But she was alive. The Sarthian was alive. Below them, in the Death World simulation, cadet markers continued to disappear one by one. Riley looked at the Sarthian. Welcome to the 2%. Riley and the Sarthian cadet reached the ridge top and collapsed against the rocks, gasping for air. The acid rain had stopped at this elevation, replaced by thick fog that limited visibility to maybe 20 meters. Riley checked her tactical display. 4 other cadet markers remained active scattered across the map. 4 out of 247. The Sarthian, whose name was Connor according to his identification signal, was staring at his own display in horror. "This is wrong," he whispered. "The gauntlet does not kill this many this fast. Historical data shows average survival time of 14 minutes. We are only 8 minutes in." Riley was examining her burns, applying the last of her medical supplies to the worst ones. Maybe the simulation doesn't like that we're still alive. As if responding to her words, her display flashed red with a priority alert. Multiple warnings appeared simultaneously across her screen. Warning: seismic activity detected. Volcanic eruption imminent in Sector 7. Warning: atmospheric electrical storm forming in Sectors 4 through 9. Warning: hostile force multiplication detected. Threat level increased to maximum. Riley pulled up the map. Sector 7 was where 2 of the remaining cadets were located. The electrical storm covered the area where the other 2 cadets were trying to reach the extraction point. And the hostile force multiplication meant the creatures hunting them were about to get reinforcements. "This is impossible," Connor said, his scales turning pale. 3 catastrophic events at once. The gauntlet has never done this. It is supposed to be difficult but survivable. Riley watched the timer. They had 11 hours and 42 minutes remaining to reach extraction. The extraction point was still 12 kilometers away through terrain that was now about to become even more lethal. Her communication system crackled. A voice came through, panicked and young. "This is Cadet Nina Reeves. I am in Sector 7. The ground is shaking. I can see lava coming up through cracks in the rocks. What do I do?" Riley keyed her communication to open broadcast. "Nina, this is Riley Chin. How fast can you run?" "What? I do not know. I am supposed to find shelter and—" "Forget shelter. The volcano is going to bury that entire sector in 10 minutes. Run north. Full sprint. Do not stop for anything." Another voice joined the channel. "This is Cadet Tyler Brooks. I have Nina on visual. She is 200 meters from my position. I can guide her." "Good," Riley said. "Tyler, both of you need to get out of Sector 7 immediately. Head for Sector 5, there is high ground there." "But the extraction point is north," Tyler said. "Standard protocol says to proceed directly to objective." Riley looked at her map. The electrical storm was forming directly between them and the extraction point. The objective does not matter if you are dead. Get to safety first. Connor was listening to this exchange with growing confusion. "Why are you taking command? We are all individual cadets. This is a solo test." "It is a test," Riley said, "but it does not say we have to take it alone." Her display showed the volcanic activity increasing. Lava was spreading fast through Sector 7. Nina and Tyler's markers were moving but not fast enough. They had maybe 5 minutes before the lava flow cut off their escape route. Riley keyed her communication again. "Nina, Tyler, you need to move faster. The lava is spreading." "I am trying." Nina's voice was strained. "My gear is damaged. My leg servos are not working properly." Riley made a quick calculation. "Tyler, how much gear are you carrying?" "Full pack. About 20 kilos. Drop it. Drop everything except your emergency beacon and medical supplies. You need to carry Nina if her servos fail. There was a pause. But, that is wasteful. We might need those supplies. You will definitely die if you are too slow, Riley said flatly. Drop the gear. That is not a suggestion. She heard Tyler grunt with effort. On her display, both markers suddenly started moving faster. The other two cadets were dealing with the electrical storm. Lightning was striking the ground every few seconds. Riley could see their markers moving erratically, trying to avoid the strikes. Cadets in Sector 6, identify yourselves, Riley said. Cadet Angela Price here, came a steady voice. I am with Cadet Lucas Grant. We are trying to reach extraction, but the lightning is too dense. We cannot move forward. Riley studied the storm pattern on her map. The lightning was not random. It was striking in a systematic pattern, as if something was directing it. The simulation is hurting you, she said. It wants you to retreat. So we should go forward? Lucas asked. No. We should go around. The storm is moving east. If you move west for 1 kilometer, then north, you can flank it. That will add time to our journey, Angela said. It will add time to your survival, Riley countered. Which do you want? Connor was watching Riley coordinate the other cadets with an expression of disbelief. This is not how the gauntlet works. You are supposed to face challenges alone. That is the point of the test. Maybe, Riley said. Or maybe the real test is what we do when we realize we are all going to lose if we stay alone. Her display flashed again. The hostile creatures were multiplying. What had been packs of 4 or 5 were now groups of 20 or more. They were converging on all the cadet positions simultaneously. Riley opened the channel to all remaining cadets. Everyone listen. The simulation just spawned a lot more hostiles. They are coming for all of us at once. This is not a standard gauntlet anymore. What do you mean? Tyler asked. He and Nina had escaped the lava flow and were catching their breath on higher ground. I mean, the simulation recognizes that some of us are still alive when we should not be. It is adapting. Escalating. Trying to kill us all before we can adapt further. So what do we do? Nina's voice was frightened. Riley looked at the map, at the 5 markers representing the only survivors out of nearly 250 cadets. She thought about the 2% survival rate. About how everyone expected them to die. About how the gauntlet had killed 98% of everyone who had ever attempted it. We stopped trying to survive alone, Riley said. Angela and Lucas, you move west around the storm. Tyler and Nina, you hold position on that high ground. Connor and I are going to draw the hostiles toward us and away from you. That is suicide, Connor hissed. No, Riley said calmly. That is tactics. If we split up, the hostiles will hunt us individually and kill us all. If we work together, we can control where they go and how they attack. But the gauntlet is designed for solo survival, Angela protested. We are being tested individually. Are we? Riley asked. Or are we being tested on what we do when individual survival becomes impossible? There was silence on the channel. Riley could almost hear the other cadets thinking, reconsidering everything they knew about the test. On Earth, Riley continued, we have a saying, 2% means someone survives. Not that 98% die. Someone makes it through. That is the number that matters. And right now there are 5 of us. If even one of us reaches extraction, we prove the system can be beaten. But if all 5 of us make it, we change what everyone thinks is possible. You are insane, Connor said, but his voice had changed. There was something else in it now. Not fear. Hope maybe. Probably, Riley admitted. But I would rather be insane and alive than rational and dead. Who is with me? One by one the other cadets responded. I am in, Tyler said. Me too, Nina added. We will follow your plan, Angela said, and Lucas made a sound of agreement. Connor looked at Riley for a long moment, his reptilian eyes unreadable. Then he checked his rifle charge and stood up. If we are going to do this, we need to move fast. Those hostiles will reach our position in 6 minutes. Riley smiled. Then let's give them something to chase. She opened her communication to all 5 cadets. All right everyone, here's what we are going to do. This is not about reaching extraction first anymore. This is about all of us reaching extraction together. The simulation wants us to think like individuals fighting for ourselves. We are going to think like a team. On her display, the hostile markers were closing in from all directions. The volcanic sector was expanding. The electrical storm was intensifying. Every environmental hazard the simulation could generate was active at once. The gauntlet was trying to kill them all. Riley checked her nearly empty rifle, her burned uniform, her exhausted body. Let's be the 2%, she said. Riley coordinated the 5 remaining cadets across the hostile terrain, directing them like pieces on a chessboard. Connor stayed with her on the eastern ridge while Angela and Lucas moved west around the electrical storm. Tyler and Nina held the southern high ground, creating a triangle of positions. The hostiles are not attacking randomly anymore, Angela reported over the communication channel. They are testing our positions, probing for weakness. Riley watched her tactical display. Angela was right. The creatures were moving in coordinated groups, feinting at one position then pulling back to test another. They were learning, adapting to the cadets' defensive strategy. We need to use what makes each of us different, Riley said. Angela, you are Pelvarian. Your species can see heat signatures better than any of us. What do you see? There was a pause as Angela scanned the area. The creatures have different body temperatures. Some are hotter than others. The hotter ones seem to be leading the packs. Those are the alphas, Riley said. If we take them out, the packs will lose coordination. Can you identify which ones are alphas from your position? Yes. I count 6 alpha signatures within our perimeter. Good. Mark them on the shared tactical display. Riley turned to Connor. Your people are Sarthian. You have natural resistance to toxins, right? Connor nodded, his scales rippling. Our biology filters most poisons. Why? Because I need you to scout ahead through that swamp area in Sector 8. The rest of us would die from the gases there, but you can move through it safely. We need to know if that is a viable escape route. Connor looked at the swamp on his display. Standard doctrine said to avoid toxic environments. But nothing about this situation was standard anymore. I will go. But if I die from the toxins, remember it was your idea. If you die, I will apologize at your memorial, Riley said. Now move. While Connor scouted the swamp, Riley directed Tyler and Nina to shift positions. Tyler, you said you trained in zero-gravity combat before transferring to standard infantry, right? Yes, but how does that help us here? Because zero-gravity combat teaches three-dimensional thinking. You are used to threats coming from any direction, including above. I need you watching the sky. Some of these creatures might be able to climb or jump high enough to attack from elevated positions. On it, Tyler said. Riley heard him shifting his position to get a better view of the terrain above them. The creatures were getting bolder now. One pack rushed Angela and Lucas's position. Angela fired at the alpha she had identified, and when it fell, the rest of the pack scattered in confusion, exactly as Riley had predicted. It works. Angela shouted. Target the hot ones first. Riley marked all 6 alpha signatures on the shared display. Everyone, priority targets are marked in red. Take them out when you have clear shots. Connor's voice came through, slightly distorted by static. I am in the swamp. The toxin levels are high but manageable for me. However, there is a problem. The extraction point is on the other side, and there is a ravine between the swamp and extraction. It is too wide to jump. Riley pulled up the topographical data. The ravine was 40 meters across with steep walls. No way to climb down and up in time. Can we go around it? Not without going back through the hostile zones we just escaped from, Connor said. Tyler's voice cut in urgently. I have movement above us. Large flying creatures, 6 of them, circling our position. Can you shoot them down? Riley asked. Not all of them. My rifle charge is at 30%. I can maybe take down 2 before I am empty. Riley did the math. 5 cadets, limited ammunition, hostile creatures on the ground and in the air, a toxic swamp, and an impassable ravine between them and extraction. She checked the timer. 7 hours remaining. Every historical record she had studied showed the same pattern. When cadets reached this point in the gauntlet, when the final obstacles appeared, they made a choice. Continue alone and maybe survive, or try to help others and definitely die. The 2% who passed had all made the same choice. They abandoned anyone who slowed them down. They sacrificed others to save themselves. That was the lesson the gauntlet taught. That was what Kesvar himself had done to set the completion record. Leaders make hard choices. Sometimes people have to die so that the mission succeeds. Riley, Nina's voice was quiet. My leg servos are failing completely now. I cannot run anymore. Tyler has been helping me, but I am slowing him down. Riley looked at Nina's marker on the display. She was right. Tyler could move 3 times faster without her. Tyler, Riley said carefully, what is your ammunition status? 42%. Enough to fight through to extraction if I move fast. Riley closed her eyes. This was the test. This was the real gauntlet. Not the creatures or the environment. The choice. Who lives and who dies. Standard doctrine says Tyler should proceed alone, Angela said quietly. Nina cannot continue. Trying to carry her will get them both killed. That is what the historical records show, Lucas added. Every successful cadet abandoned wounded allies at this stage. Connor emerged from the swamp, breathing hard. Riley, what are your orders? Riley opened her eyes and looked at her display. 5 markers. 5 living cadets out of 247 who started. Each one representing a different species, a different skill set, a different way of seeing the universe. She thought about the 2%. About how everyone expected failure. About how the system was designed to force impossible choices. No, Riley said. No what? Tyler asked. No, we are not abandoning anyone. Tyler, you are going to carry Nina. All the way to extraction if necessary. That is suicide, Connor said flatly. The data is clear. Trying to save everyone means everyone dies. The data is based on cadets who accepted the test rules, Riley said. We are going to change the rules. Angela, Lucas, how is your ammunition? 20%, Angela said. 15%, Lucas added. Give it all to Tyler. He is going to need it to protect Nina while he carries her. That leaves us defenseless, Lucas protested. No, it leaves you fast. You two are going to sprint ahead to the ravine and find a way across. You're the scouts now. Connor, you stay with me. We are going to create a diversion that draws the hostiles away from Tyler and Nina. What kind of diversion? Connor asked. Riley checked her gear. She had one emergency beacon left, the kind designed to broadcast a rescue signal across huge distances. The kind that makes us the biggest targets on this planet. This violates every principle of survival tactics, Angela said. Yes, Riley agreed. Because survival tactics are designed for individuals. We are not individuals anymore. We are a unit. And units do not leave people behind. There was a long silence on the communication channel. Riley could almost feel the other cadets struggling with the decision. Everything in their training said she was wrong. Every historical record said this approach would fail. All right, Tyler said finally. I am picking up Nina now. We are moving toward extraction. We will find a way across the ravine, Angela promised. Connor looked at Riley with an expression that might have been respect or disbelief. You realize we are probably going to die doing this. Probably, Riley said. She activated her emergency beacon and set it to maximum broadcast. Every hostile creature within 5 kilometers would detect the signal and come running. But we are going to die trying something different. And maybe that is what changes everything. The beacon screamed its signal into the air. On Riley's display, she watched as every hostile marker on the map turned toward her position. Connor raised his nearly empty rifle. For what it is worth, human, this is the most foolish and brave thing I have ever seen. Riley smiled. On Earth, we call that being human. The creatures charged. Riley and Connor opened fire, not trying to kill them all, just trying to draw them away from the others. Behind them, Tyler carried Nina toward extraction. Ahead of them, Angela and Lucas searched for a way to cross an impossible ravine. And somewhere in the control room, watching this simulation unfold, instructors were seeing something that had never happened in 300 years of the gauntlet. 5 cadets refusing to let the odds break them apart. The creatures swarmed toward Riley and Connor's position like a living wave. Riley fired her pulse rifle until the charge dropped to 0, then switched to throwing rocks, debris, anything to keep the hostiles focused on her location. Connor fought beside her, his Sarthian reflexes allowing him to dodge attacks that would have killed her instantly. Angela, status report. Riley shouted into her communication device while rolling behind a boulder to avoid snapping jaws. We found a solution to the ravine, Angela's voice came back, breathless with excitement. There are old metal cables buried in the rock face. Lucas thinks they are from mining equipment. We can use them to create a rope bridge. How long will that take? 10 minutes if we work fast. Riley checked her display. Tyler was still 2 kilometers from the ravine, moving slower than she hoped but moving. Nina's vital signs were stable. The flying creatures Tyler had spotted were circling but not attacking yet. Maybe they were waiting for their ground-based cousins to finish the kill. You have 8 minutes, Riley said. Tyler will be there by then and he cannot wait. Connor grabbed Riley's arm and pulled her sideways as a creature's claws raked the air where her head had been a second before. We cannot hold them for 8 more minutes. There are too many. He was right. Riley counted at least 40 creatures surrounding their position, with more coming. Her rifle was empty. Connor's rifle had maybe 5 shots left. They had no cover that would last more than another minute or 2. Then we do not hold them here, Riley said. We lead them somewhere else. Where? Riley pulled up her map and found what she was looking for. The volcanic sector. The lava flow has created a weak crust over molten rock. If we can get the creatures to chase us across it, their weight will break through. That is insane. Our weight will break through too. Not if we move fast enough. Riley grabbed Connor's arm. Trust me. We run on 3. 1, 2, 3. They burst from cover and sprinted toward Sector 7. The creatures roared and gave chase exactly as Riley hoped. She and Connor ran across cooling lava rock that cracked and smoked under their boots. Behind them, the heavier creatures hit the same ground and began breaking through, falling into molten stone below. Their screams were terrible. But not all of them fell. At least 20 creatures were light enough or fast enough to make it across, still pursuing. Riley's legs burned with exhaustion. Her lungs felt like they were on fire. Connor was gasping beside her, his reptilian biology not designed for extended running. They were not going to make it. Riley, Tyler's voice crackled through her communicator. We have reached the ravine. Angela and Lucas have the cable bridge ready, but it looks unstable. Cross it anyway, Riley commanded. All of you. Get to the extraction point. What about you and Connor? We are finishing what we started. Now move. Riley and Connor reached the edge of Sector 7 and turned to face the remaining creatures. Connor's rifle clicked empty. Riley had no ammunition at all. The creatures slowed, sensing easy prey moving in for the kill. It has been an honor serving with you, human, Connor said. Call me Riley, she replied. And this is not over yet. She looked at her display one more time. Tyler, Nina, Angela, and Lucas were crossing the cable bridge. The structure swayed dangerously but held. The extraction point was only 500 meters beyond the ravine. They were going to make it. 4 out of 5 cadets surviving. 8% success rate. 4 times better than the historical average. But Riley wanted better than that. She activated her suit's emergency beacon again, but this time she changed the frequency to match the volcanic monitoring system. The ground beneath them trembled. The creatures paused, confused by the vibration. What did you do? Connor asked. I told the simulation we are standing on unstable ground. I triggered an automated evacuation warning. That will not stop the creatures. No, Riley said. But it might trigger an automated safety override. For 3 long seconds nothing happened. The creatures crept closer. Riley could smell their breath, hot and rotten. Then the world went white. Riley woke up in the extraction pod, gasping and disoriented. Her body ached everywhere, phantom pain from injuries that had not actually happened. Connor was in the pod next to hers, conscious but looking dazed. Safety override activated, a calm computer voice announced. Simulation terminated due to environmental hazard exceeding safe parameters for neural feedback. Cadets Chin and Connor, extraction complete. Riley pulled herself out of the pod on shaking legs. The observation room was in chaos. Instructors were shouting at each other and pointing at displays. Commander Thelrick stood in the center, all 6 eyes focused on the main screen. The screen showed 5 active cadet markers at the extraction point. 5 survivors. Impossible, Instructor Vixen whispered. In 300 years, we have never had more than 1 cadet reach extraction from a single testing group. Riley walked toward the observation window, still unsteady. Through the glass she could see the other pods. Tyler was helping Nina out of hers. Angela and Lucas emerged, looking shocked but alive. All 5 of them. All alive. Commander Thelrix turned to face Riley. His expression was unreadable. Cadet Chin, you triggered a safety override. That has never been done before. I triggered an automated response to a real danger, Riley corrected. The simulation's volcanic activity had exceeded safe neural feedback levels. The safety system did what it was designed to do. You manipulated the test. I used the resources available to me, Riley said calmly. Isn't that what the gauntlet is supposed to teach? Thelrix's mandibles clicked rapidly. The gauntlet is designed to test individual survival capability under impossible conditions. With respect, Commander, no it is not. Riley met his alien eyes steadily. The gauntlet is designed to teach command decisions. When to sacrifice others to complete a mission. Who lives and who dies. That is what war leader Kesvar learned when he set the record. He sacrificed his unit to reach extraction alone. And his decision saved the mission data he carried, which prevented a war, Vixen said sharply. He made the hard choice that leaders must make. He made one choice, Riley said. I made a different one. I chose to bring everyone home. You got lucky, Vixen hissed. Maybe, Riley admitted. Or maybe luck is just another word for refusing to accept bad odds. Kira burst into the observation room, her Pelvarian skin glowing bright with joy. She ran to Riley and wrapped her in a hug that made Riley's burned phantom shoulders scream in protest. You did it, Kira sobbed. Everyone said you were crazy, but you did it. Over the next hour, the Academy staff reviewed every second of the simulation. They analyzed the tactical decisions, the coordination between cadets, the unprecedented use of combined species abilities. Riley's refusal to follow standard doctrine was documented in detail. Finally, Commander Thelrix called Riley into his private office. The other 4 surviving cadets came with her, insisting they be present for whatever judgment was coming. I have reviewed the data, Thelrix said. Your approach was unorthodox, wasteful of resources, dismissive of established survival doctrine. Riley said nothing, waiting. It also resulted in the highest survival rate in Gauntlet history. 5 cadets reaching extraction from a single group. 10% success rate. Thelrix paused. The council has spent the afternoon debating whether to disqualify you for breaking protocol or commend you for extraordinary results. And what did they decide? Riley asked. They decided that the point of the gauntlet was never to enforce protocol. It was to find cadets who could succeed when protocol failed. Thelrix's expression might have been a smile. Congratulations, Cadet Chin. You and your team have passed. The other cadets erupted in celebration. Connor grabbed Riley's hand in a Sarthian gesture of respect. Tyler and Nina were crying. Angela and Lucas embraced. However, Thelrix continued, there is one more thing. The Council has created a new position in the Academy. We are implementing a course on impossible scenario doctrine. Tactics for situations where standard protocol is insufficient. Riley felt her heart race. Sir? You will teach this course, Cadet Chin. You and your team will instruct future generations on what you learned. That sometimes refusing to accept the odds is the only way to change them. Riley looked at the other 4 cadets, her team, the people she had refused to abandon. All of us teaching together? All of you, Thelrix confirmed. Different species, different perspectives, different approaches to the same problems. That is what you proved works. Riley smiled. When do we start? Next term. For now, you are all granted leave to recover. You have earned it. As they left the office, Kira was waiting in the hall. She looked at Riley with awe. How did you know it would work? How did you know you could change the odds? Riley thought about the question carefully. She remembered sitting in the briefing hall 3 days ago, hearing about the 2% survival rate. She remembered everyone telling her it was impossible. I did not know, Riley admitted. But I knew what would happen if I accepted what everyone else accepted. I would become part of the 98% who failed. And I decided I would rather try something different and fail than never try at all. But you did not fail, Connor said, joining them in the hallway. You succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. We succeeded, Riley corrected. All 5 of us together. That is the real lesson. The Gauntlet spent 300 years teaching cadets to succeed alone. We proved something better. That working together, we can do things that statistics say are impossible. Word of their success spread through the Academy fast. By evening, cadets from every species were asking Riley how she did it. What was her secret? What special knowledge did she have? Riley told them all the same thing. I never accepted 2% as my odds of survival. I treated it as the minimum standard to beat. Because on Earth we do not plan to become statistics. We plan to change what statistics mean. The following term, Riley and her team stood before their first class of cadets. Young officers from across the galaxy, all facing the same fears and challenges that the Gauntlet represented. The universe will give you odds, Riley told them. Bad odds. Impossible odds. Odds that make survival seem like a fantasy. Your commanders will tell you about acceptable losses and necessary sacrifices. They will show you statistics proving that some things cannot be done. She paused and looked at Tyler, Nina, Angela, Lucas, and Connor standing beside her. But those are just numbers. And numbers can be changed. Not by ignoring reality, but by refusing to let reality define what is possible. The Gauntlet taught generations of cadets that 2% survive. We are going to teach you how to make that number grow. The cadets listened in silence, some skeptical, others hopeful. Welcome, Riley said, to Impossible Scenario Doctrine, where we learn that sometimes the only way to beat the odds is to refuse to play by their rules.